I do think
Yeah.
it's interesting that that's where it's likely going, and I think some of these other approaches are good experimentations, but or good experimentations, good experiments, but probably not the right thing in the long run. Which then begs the question: is any of this the right thing in the long run? Which is the subject of our last meaty article that we want to talk about from the New York Times, and I'll just read the headline: "Will AI be a bust? A Wall Street skeptic rings the alarm." And so the article is talking about Goldman Sachs head of stock research basically saying that this is going to all end badly, that the amount of investment necessary not only to build the technology, but to sustain it, to deliver it, right? That the incremental, right? One of the big things about technology is the incremental costs have been incredibly low, right? And so therefore, scale was your friend. And the case that he's making here is that the incremental cost of AI is actually very high. Ergo, scale doesn't help. And so they've actually what I love about it is that they've been hosting these debates, I guess I'd call it, where there's another member of the Goldman Sachs senior team that is extremely bullish on tech, and so they're having these conferences where they're basically arguing with each other, which just shows that nobody has the answer. But I did find it almost refreshing that at least there is a very vocal skeptic out there with enough credibility that people are paying attention.
Yes. And this is something that we run into in tech every 10 to 15 years, where honestly, there's an inflection point that requires a lot of capital expenditure, whether it's with the emergence of cloud computing when AWS was starting to take off, or even before that in the dot-com era. We had billions upon billions of dollars spent, and a lot of it looked wasted at the time, but without spending that money, we wouldn't have been able to take a step forward. So, as someone who believes in the future of tech, I'm glad that this money is going into AI because, frankly, you have to spend that money for us to get to whatever's going to happen next. But is it going to be great from a financial perspective for everybody? I'm with the Goldman Sachs, bear on that one. In that, a lot of people are going to lose their money, but it's going to be good for us, like as a whole, for that to happen.
So you were basically playing both parts. So the two gentlemen here is let's see if I get his name right. Jim Cavello is the bear on AI, and
Mhm.
he's the um he's their what I said the head what I say head of stock something whatever. Anyway, yeah, head of
No,
stock
he's one of their
research.
chief
And
strategy people. Yes.
right. And then the other gentleman is George Lee, who's the co-head of their geopolitical advisory business, right? And he's been making the case that you would just made that hey, it often looks like this. You have these long runway, massive investments, and it looks like you're just flushing money down the tube, and then all of a sudden you emerge on the other day with the internet. And so it's really interesting to see these two point of views sort of be brought to the fold. And I think maybe as I always land, right? I think they're both right to a degree. So Cavello, the article talks about how he was driving down the 101 from San Jose to San Francisco, and he counted the billboards hyping some form of AI something. And he said there were 40 of them in that span,
Mhm.
which I think is shocking on a billboard, right? It's Silicon Valley, so you get all of that. But he
And
says
that's
what,
just normal. That's just how we do it.
right? But he said they were all crypto before, and now they're AI, which speaks to the fad and the hype aspect of this, which I think is totally dead on that that's a problem. But I do agree that there's an investment, and I think the hard part to this is, well, what comes out? Because one of the things that this article points out is that we had the dot-com bust, and we had the vast majority of organizations just get flushed out, but we did have Amazon and Google and a few others come out of that, and they're now the giants, right? And so I think you're going to see something similar for a lot of folks. It's going to be this complete flush. This was a technology that just either didn't hold, like maybe Rabbit didn't hold water, wasn't going to go anywhere, or others where, yeah, it's important technology, but it's not enough to stand on its own. They're going to get consumed by some larger organization. Um,
Yeah, but we're also going to
but
have our Yahoos and America Onlines, RIP. Like, I guess they both still technically exist, but not in a way that matters the way that they did 20 years
yeah,
ago. But
yeah,
that's going to happen as well. It's just part of this wave. The part that I disagree with is when people start talking about AI becoming this 3 trillion or 5 trillion or $10 trillion market. Like, to me, that just doesn't make any sense. I could see this. I obviously this is going to be multi-billion-dollar market, but seeing it talked about like it's going to be bigger than the entire current IT market right now. That's just nonsense to
And
me.
it does make you question the, I mean, again, we didn't put it on our list of things to talk about, mostly because I'm tired about talking about OpenAI, but OpenAI is closing in on a $650 billion round. And yeah, you do say, how do you justify that? Maybe to make the number right, but whatever. It's a massive, massive, massive number. And it's like, how do you justify that, right? It has to be these massive, massive markets to do it. And that's where I sort of land on the bearish side of it, saying I think there's no question we're going to see a transformation in markets. We're going to see a transformation in how organizations work, and that's going to generate revenue into the sector. But is it going to generate enough? And is there going to be enough value generated by the companies that are buying the technology to justify it over the long haul? And I think the answer is going to be a very, very qualified yes, but it's going to require a whole lot of very heavy due diligence to make sure you're applying it in the right way.
Yeah, just for
So,
you fact checking people online. Yeah, we know uh, the numbers for OpenAI. Something like making 3 billion a year right now, losing 5 billion somehow at 150 billion in valuation, with money coming in from all sides. But the exact numbers aren't super important. The fact is more around how, the that we understand that this huge bubble is here.